Okay, so Half-Life 2 is the worst game I have ever played. And this is coming from a Half-Life fan. This is coming from somebody who's grown up with the game. But when it comes to the base game, it just is terrible. It's the story. What story? There is no story in this game. It's just go to the nearest door, climb the nearest ladder, break crate, fight waves of enemies, and move on to the next waypoint. There's zero variation in the gameplay. We have 3 boss enemies in the game, if you can even call it that. 2 of which are exactly the same, and the antlion is just basically a bullet sponge. He has no sort of variation in terms. You don't even have to use strategy when fighting him. It's just circle around him, shoot him as many times as you possibly can. And since the AI in the game is so bad, it's rather easy to beat the bosses. I couldn't even finish this game. It was so boring. Like, I'm not even gonna lie to you when I'm making this review, because I couldn't even finish the game. I got towards, I believe, the prison part of the game. At least that's what the map's called. I got towards the prison part of the game, and it was just boring. I was like, why am I even playing this? Why am I even playing this game? And looking on clips on YouTube, you can see why I made the right decision, because the game ends on a huge cliffhanger. They basically sold you a quarter of the game. The entire game basically plays as like one giant intro level. It's just so remedial in terms of strategy. It's so remedial in terms of, and the game is just, each level just operates as a maze. Each level just operates as a maze where everything's just clumped together. There's too much stuff going on in each level. Sure, it's fun to explore, but when you design your level as if it's a puzzle, but really the puzzles are just so easy. Like, seriously, the puzzles in this game are just so easily. The puzzles in this game either revolve around a freaking ladder, a vent, or a valve. They're not puzzles, or they just require you to stack crates or put crates under stuff. That's really the extent of the quote-unquote puzzles in this game. They're really not even puzzles, and the playtime of this game is pathetic. It's pathetic. I mean, it takes you no less than, I'd say, 4 hours to beat the entire game. If you actually know what you're doing, it's going to take no less than 4 hours. And it's insane how people are saying this is the game of the year, this is one of the best games of all time. How? I mean, seriously, when you look at the actual game and what's in the game in terms of weapons, in terms of enemies, it's very mediocre for a first-person shooter. I mean, the first Half-Life, I mean, I can't even count how many weapons you had. I can't even count how many enemy variations there were, and the AI was actually better than the AI in Half-Life 2. In the AI in Half-Life 2, the enemies basically either just stand still, no cover, or they just rush you like idiots. And that is very boring. It's very boring, especially when there's no chatter, there's no AI chatter. They basically just muffle into some styrofoam cup. You can't actually make out what they're saying, but the AI, they're basically just dumb. The dumbest AI you could possibly have in a game, and the teammate AI is no better. Matter of fact, you can argue they're worse, because they just block doors and they essentially disregard anything around them. They don't interact with their environment. And in games like Halo, and Halo is a superior first-person shooter. In games like Halo, the enemy AI they actually interact with the player. I mean, they'll run from the player when they're in a hopeless situation. The AI variations, there's variations of the actual enemies. There's not just one enemy, which is the Combine in this instance. And you could say, oh, but there's different variations of the Combine. No, that's not how it works. You can't just have the same enemy with slightly different damage, slightly different weapons. I mean, the AR-2 is basically the same exact weapon as the SMG. It's basically the same exact weapon. I mean, playing games like Halo, the reason why they don't get old and the reason why they have unlimited replay value is because each time you're playing, you have so many weapons to choose from, so many different enemies. It basically doesn't get old. But with this game, it's just the same old. After like the canal mission, I was just done with this game. Like, whose idea was it to make a canal mission that was like 2 hours long? It's just insane. It's just insane. That stupid helicopter. I mean, sure, it's kind of fun to dodge them, but after a while, it just gets old. It just gets old, and it just gets punishing. It just keeps going on and on and on, and that's the problem with this game. The pacing in this game is just awful. Each level just drags on for what feels like an eternity, where you just have level after level of just doing the same thing over and over again, like the antlion mission, where you're commanding antlions. I'm like, okay, after the first guard tower you raid, it's fun, but the 30th one, no, it's not fun anymore. That's the problem. Each level is just repeated versions of itself, and it's just boring. It's just boring, where you have to rely on the same strategy to kill your enemy, which is basically using the antlions. But at a point, the antlions just impede you on your mission, and they're no longer even profitable to use. So when you're using the antlions, of course, you can't holster another weapon. So basically, you're just unarmed, and it's stupid because you're in a close range scenario. So somebody could just walk up to you while you're unarmed and just shoot you. So it's just a dumb mission dynamic, and people are just praising this game. I mean, companies like Valve, they don't care about their customers. They don't care about your fanism. They only care about money. And once they went to a different money-making machine, which was Steam, they basically ditched their entire franchise and all their fans. So all you guys praising this company endlessly, when really they've shown time after time again they're willing to lie to their fans, willing to steal from their fans. I mean, look at the Catch the Freeman, the worst game ever, and yet they're allowed to be put on the Steam marketplace. Why? Because they're giving Valve money. That's why. So you've just seen, I mean, and let's talk about the setting of this game. The setting of this game, the textures. I mean, there's basically 4 settings in this game: the canal, zombies, the little prison complex, and City 17. That's really the only settings you get. 4 mediocre settings, and within each level, it's essentially copy and paste all around, but different layouts. So it's rather boring to look at. Matter of fact, it's extremely boring to look at. And each and every character, and let's talk about the characters also. The characters in this game are so dumbed down. Like, we're supposed to pretend that these characters didn't die a million times in the last game. We're supposed to pretend that these characters were basically mediocre copies of themselves in the last game. Now we're supposed to pretend they're real characters, and we're supposed to pretend we're supposed to care about them. I mean, Eli, I mean, his character was like there for 3 seconds in the last game. I mean, Kleiner, he died like a million times. Now we're supposed to care about Kleiner all of a sudden. Barney, he's the only character that actually existed in the last game, but now he's basically dumbed down and he's only there to give comic relief, and it just defies the tone of the film because the actions of these characters don't match the tone. It's supposed to be a dystopia where every human in the world is sterilized and being bred like cattle to be soldiers, but the world doesn't accurately reflect that. The lighting doesn't accurately reflect that. Nothing in this game accurately reflects a dystopia. Sure, you see some pollution. Sure you see some police brutality, but on a scale that's actually meaningful, no, you don't. You don't. It's just garbage. It's just garbage. This game is boring. At the end of the day, this game plays itself way, way, way too safe. I mean, that zombie mission, Ravenholm, it's just boring. It's people praising this game. Oh, it's so innovative, it's so creative. You could kill zombies with stuff you find on the wall. You could kill zombies with. I mean, how dumbed down are you? I mean, I could understand having a little segment in the game that lasts 15 minutes killing zombies, but having a whole section which lasts like an hour of just doing nothing but killing zombies that have no other purpose than to fling themselves towards you and just get mowed down by either a razor blade or some other weapon. It's just boring. As I've said before, there's zero replay value in this game. Honestly, the people who saying they like this game so much, how many times did you really replay it? I mean, it's just no replay value. I mean, this game is just a chore. It's just a 4 to 5 hour chore. Just trying to do the same thing over and over again per level. And really, when you think about it, there's only 4 real levels in this game. There's only 4 real levels, all of which are just dragged out, trying to meet the minimum criteria for a game. If you can even call this a game at this point, this game just sucks. Let's just be honest. Half-Life 2 just sucks. Not even a game.